Hello everyone, this is Pedro from Pythalista with one more video. Today I'm gonna talk about Data Lake. It's been recently in the last week, especially if you follow Microsoft content. Data Lake and Parquet and data tables has been mentioned a lot, but probably a lot of people hearing that don't know what a Data Lake is. And the purpose of this video is to give you a background and give you a quick demo of what's a Delta Lake and what's the concept behind. Delta Lake is a project that it's an open source project. It's maintained mainly by the engineers of Databricks. Databricks is a platform for advanced analytics. They came up with the concept of Lakehouse, and the founders of the company were the engineers that created Spark, which is probably the main big data for processing like massive data in memory in distributed systems in a data lake. So that's the origins of this company. So the Delta Lake was created to solve a problem because in the analytics world, kind of two separate worlds existed in parallel. So a data lake was created mainly to process like big data and also unstructured data at scale. And the data warehouse is something that's more, it's older, like has got like 50, 40 years, maybe 40 years of existence. And the data lake something more like the last 10-ish years, maybe 15 now. And then there was kind of like no communication in between those. And then as the modern data platform came, so it was very hard to move those files in between. And they wanted to come up with a solution where you didn't have to manage those two separate worlds. You can have everything into one platform. And the problem with managing files in a data lake, usually they would use formats like flat files like CSV or Parquet, Avro, and other formats. But the problem with these formats that you lost is that you would not have what they call AST compliance. They are not ACID compliant, which you had from transaction system. And AST compatibility would be those stands for atomicity, which means that each statement or transaction is created as a single unit. You either do a transaction complete or not. Also, consistency. An object in a database needs to be consistent across all users querying that object. And that has to do with like isolation. So if multiple users are reading and writing from the same table. And durability is that once you write data to disk, that stays there. It doesn't change. So the Delta Lake brought that AST compatibility to a data lake and how they achieve that. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a demo, and then it shows that it creates once a delta table is created, which is based in this delta format, which is pretty much a Parquet format, which is a open source format for files in a data lake. And on top of this Parquet file, it creates a log file where it tracks all the changes that happens in that Parquet file, which is like a Parquet file structure is a columnar format, which is pretty much like a table in a flat file, and can be more than one file once it's managed by Delta. And then what's interesting you see here is that any change in this Parquet file is stored in log in a folder that all the logs are recorded. And then the beauty of this, you can do time travel on this data. Now let's jump into a Databricks notebook where I'm gonna give you an example. Very simple, very quickly. So let's create a table. So I'm just running a notebook here. I have a cluster running, so that table was run. So if I go here in my Databricks file system, a folder was created for this table. So, but no data is here. But I have this folder called Delta Log, which records everything that happened in this table. At the moment, there is no Parquet files because there is no data in the table because it's an empty table. So if I do a select all from student, there's nothing there. So let's do some insert operations. Let's do those 3 transactions, and each transaction I'm gonna include a record. So this table has got just three columns: an ID, a name, and a value. So it's called students table. So after I did those transactions, if I select everything from the table, I've got 3 records. So if I go back to my DBFS, I'm just gonna do a refresh here. Now I have 3 files here, and the data log, you see that it grew. So which means that as I insert and delete and change records in my table, everything gets recorded. Let's do some more transactions here. So I'm just gonna do another transaction, but in these transactions, in one transaction, I'm gonna add 3 items. So that's done. Now I'm gonna do a update. So I'm going to, wherever my name has got T, starts with T, I'm just gonna add increment 1 to the value. So that's done. And then if I select from students, so that's the result. I'm just going to do a delete. I'm just going to delete all records that has greater than 6, which is those 2 here, so will be deleted. So let's do this here. Select from this table. That's the result. There are going to be 2 less items. And then I'm just going to create this view and then do a merge at the end. So that's a view. So that you can see here where I have some transactions here. I create this view just to use as a merge statement in this end. I'm saying that if the type is update, then update. If the column type here is delete, then delete the record. If there is a match, and then insert the record. So I'm just gonna do that. And I think I'll just copy it twice. I'm just going to delete that. And I'm just going to select from everything, see how it goes. From the students. Oops. Yeah, that's how the table looks like after lots of deletes, inserts and deletes and updates. So I can now describe this table which gives you the metadata. I can give some details, which gives me where the file is in my location, when it was created, that's modified. But let's use a utility here that's what I showed you. It's just like querying that folder that I showed you here. So if I do a refresh, it's gonna produce the same result. That query here, like it's a Python script. So the beauty about Databricks notebooks, you can change the language. Can be one of those languages here in this class that I'm running. So, but you can also check the logs, and then you even can go inside a log file. I'm just querying the log file number 7, and then it's a JSON file, and then in this JSON file we have all the changes that gets recorded. If it what's the type of the operation, it gets all recorded here. But I think the most human readable and interesting about the delta table is the history. So I can query the describe history of the table, and then it shows all the versions that were created. So since the version 0, which was when the table was created, and then I wrote one row, and then this one I wrote 3 rows, and I updated and I deleted, and then I did a merge statement at the end. And then if I do a select all from students version as of 0, guess what? That's gonna not return any results. But if I do as version 1, if you remember, that's when I insert the first record. The version 2 is when we did the second record, and so forth. Let's say the fourth, when I inserted 4 records at one time. But let's say that by mistake I do a OPSI query, and then I delete everything from my table. Now it's deleted. You didn't lose the data. So because everything is in the logs. So if I do a select all from students, it says nothing. But if I do this one again, it's still there. And then what I can do, I can describe the history again. I don't need to do that, but I can restore, I think it's as of 7, and then if I do as of 7, and then it's kind of, and there we go. So I have my back to the version that I wanted. And then just to finalize, I'm just gonna drop this table, and then because it's a managed table by Databricks, everything is gonna be deleted. So if I select here, there's nothing, and then if I go to my DBFS, and yeah, there is no table there. So yeah, there is no table there. The table was deleted. Alright, I think that's it. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click the bell. Thanks for watching. See you next time.